Welcome to the Red Shirt Podcast with your hosts, Vernon and Nigel. The Red Shirt Podcast, by Reds, for Reds.
Our friend Aaron Wan-Bissaka, he's come under a lot of criticism, especially after Saturday's 4-2 defeat against QPR. Do we need another right back? And just to go back to that other point, I think Dallat will go as well, because I don't know if you saw Brentford's equaliser last night, but he was still on holiday when for his defensive work. But do we need more cover for Wan-Bissaka? And does he need a rest? Lee, I'll start with you.
That's simple. Yes. You need quality. So if you think about left back, you've got Shaw and you've got Tellez. Brilliant. You've then got Wan-Bissaka, who was playing week in, week out. You only have to look at the likes of Liverpool with Trent Alexander. You could have said is like one of the best right backs in Europe who's been labelled, and after they won European Cup and actually you've seen a dip in his form as a young professional. I think Wan-Bissaka falls into that. You know, he's not known for his attacking ability, really, and his quality and his crossing. He's known as an out-and-out defender. So I think what we do need is an attacking right wing or right back option that gives us that, you know, when we were talking about different tactical styles, Is that Trippier? It could be, but I think that's more of a defensive play personally than an out-and-out attacking. And I don't know who that is. I might even like to see Brandon Williams given his berth on the right as a right back, and because I love his passion, I love his energy down that. Who's to say that he can't develop? You know, we can't have all these players, all this young talent that we don't give the opportunity to. As you talked about before, and I think that he's going to have to be brave, Ollie, at times this year, where he does that and he gives people an opportunity and decide. But to the simple answer to the question, the succinct answer is absolutely. I think that's fundamental.
So I mean, he started off as a winger, and then converted down to a right back. And as much as his one-on-one defending is probably up there with the absolute best, I think he sometimes gets caught under the ball because he's not a true defender. And I think a lot of, I may have mentioned this before, I can't remember which game it was. It might have been the Leicester game. And they had this, the tactic was go down the right-hand side, play the big diagonal, because you know Wan-Bissaka's not going to clear it, and then we'll attack from there. And I definitely think he needs someone to come in and challenge him in the way that Tellez did with Shaw, and it might just bring him on. And like you say, playing and training along someone like Kieran Trippier might actually make him a better defender positionally. But he does. Whenever he gets past that halfway line, I have zero confidence. And this is how stupid this sounds. He created the goal for Elanga against Brentford with a nice cross. So he's getting an assist there. It's that tactical, that positional side that I think he really struggles. I think we definitely need to bring someone in, mainly because Tellez is going to be out until September. Shaw's not got any minutes in him at the moment. So I think we're going to end up using Williams on the left-hand side because that's literally the only option we've got. So it's going to end up being Williams and Wan-Bissaka. And I hope we can get through the first month of games. But going back, yeah, absolutely, we need someone in. Whether it's Trippier or whether we bring one of the youngsters in. I know Ethan Laird went out on loan last year, and he's definitely a talent. Absolutely solid at the back, but great going forward as well with tons of pace. But it might just be that we do need to bring someone in that will take it up a little notch.
Nigel.
Are you guys United supporters? Am I hearing right?
Come on.
You guys are taking the mick. He was our best player last year. I want to remember that our player of the season last year was Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Are there deficiencies in his game? Yes, there's one or two. But you know what I've noticed? Every single deficiency that we highlighted last year, towards the end of the year, he was getting better at. That guy is an absolute diamond. You know what happens every year? We've always got to have a fall guy. is it his turn this year? If it's not Marshall, now it's Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Now he's not the perfect article, so now we're going to give. He was our best player last year.
Oh, Nigel, I don't think
you guys are taking the mick.
I don't think you heard me right, son. I said, great player.
He needs somebody else to come in. What are you talking about? He's gonna have. Plus, so you can, Leah, let you come back in. Plus, he's gonna have Sancho in front of him. He's gonna have Varane beside him and Maguire beside him. At the moment, who's he got beside him? Nobody. Yeah, and all of a sudden, a few mistakes and he's now a problem.
For the record, Lee. Yeah, Umla knows this already. Nigel's favourite player is Fred. That's Nigel's favourite player is Fred.
Okay, that explains a lot. So let's deal with the Wan-Bissaka point then. Wan-Bissaka, we're missing the trick here about being isolated players. I'm going to come back to what you said earlier. It's about the collective. So if you're going to have a squad the whole season, does he need a rest and to be taken out at times to keep that energy up? Absolutely, he does, and he needs absolute quality in there. I think Laird is a great shout, if I'm honest, to bring him in, give him that option, give him that chance, because you know what, you could go and spend however much on Trippier. He ain't going to be around that long, and actually, we've said we've got kind of maturity in the back line already. It's probably a bit of youth and exuberance that we need to break teams down when we need it, and like the legs in it. So. But I agree. He's played outstanding. You can't knock him in terms of what he's done so far. Does he need support and cover? Yes.
Yeah, I just want to ask Nigel a quick question because you're saying he was our best player last season. Listen, I get it, and you know I love a good statistic. So if I pull up the statistics and have a look at his one-on-ones and his tackles and his interceptions and his clearances and the last ditch, why is it that most of that is happening down his side? Why is it that teams are thinking, that's the side we're going to go and play down? If they're thinking you've got no shout going past Wan-Bissaka, he's absolute quality at the back, why are they not exploring other avenues? Why are teams picking that side of our pitch to attack down? And the reason that he's got the most tackles and the most clearances from that side is because teams are going down that side. And good on him. I'm telling you, don't get me wrong. I like him.
What's his nickname? What's his nickname? So fine, but you know what? His stats are brilliant, aren't they? They're not saying goals conceded as a result Aaron Wan-Bissaka making a mistake. He's got the best interceptions. He's got the best one-on-one clearances. He's just the best right back in the country. Should have been called up for England, but didn't. Okay, fair enough. It doesn't matter, does it? We call him Spider-Man because he's got 8 legs.
I think Fernandez
he does his job.
Fernandez might have a shout about that.
So you're penalising him for doing his job.
He's how old is Wan-Bissaka?
He's a kid, what, 22, 23?
Okay, is he the finished article?
But he's getting better.
Okay, he's getting better. So if you recognise that there's an opportunity to change the dynamic of the team, that's going to improve him purely from an education point of view. Are you saying because of his statistics and his previous performances, you shouldn't do that?
No, I'm saying he's learning. He's a perfect example of someone who his deficiencies are pointed out to him, or has been exposed by being a United player as opposed to a Crystal Palace player, and he's probably the guy staying on the pitch after training, working on those deficiencies. How many of those other players are doing that? Because I'm seeing an improvement over the course of the year. And it's just easy to kind of chuck him in there and say, oh, here's our fall guy for this year. No, I'm not having it.
I don't think he's a fall guy. I don't think he's a fall guy. But I do think that when he gets into that final third, there are too many opportunities that he doesn't take or isn't able to put in a cross. Gary Neville was the same.
How many assists did he get last year?
He needed to work.
What about assists? Sorry? He got quite a lot of assists last year. He even bagged the goal himself, actually. The guy, what more can he
do? It's one of those things where the modern fullback, in the way that the game has developed, you've got to be able to do both. And at the minute, you would put your house on him defending. But in the way that we play football, and if we want to go down this route of attacking, we know that everything goes down the middle. City are where they are because they recognise that the fullbacks are the ones that are going to bomb forward and put those crosses in. How many times? Because it's all about creating little overloads over the pitch.
Yeah, but
we're great at creating overloads on the left-hand side. Yeah, no, but Sancho will move generally into the middle. But to create that overload, he's going to take defenders in. And that's when Wan-Bissaka has to go down the outside and be that outlet. And at the moment, I take your point. He has made improvements. He was getting better. And I still think that there's room for improvement, as there always will be. And I think the minute you think you're done, I don't want him to be the fall guy. But do I think he needs to improve? And do I think bringing somebody else in who is a better crosser of the ball, yet still a defender, will help him? Yeah, it's going to help him positionally. I also take your point that having Varane next to him is definitely going to help as well, because he's not going to think, he's probably thinking, I don't need to cover as back. It might mean that he can be 5 yards, 10 yards further up the pitch. Yeah. And so I get that. I also like the fact
I think we forget who we had to babysit last year. It was Maguire and Lindelof. It was Lindelof. It was, but nobody talks about Lindelof. Everybody talks about, anyway.
Well, nice debate. And I'm sure the season, as the season prolongs and goes on, we'll see.
Who's right? Yeah, it's me.
If we go back to last night's game against Brentford, a 2-2 draw at Old Trafford, I was there. It was quite entertaining and enjoyable. Lee, I'm going to start with you. Tell me what you thought about the game. Because, I mean, a bit like the QPR game, it was almost like United's third string that was out, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And normally, I'm one of these that goes, it doesn't matter, it's pre-season. But actually, when I think about how close the Leeds game is and the intensity, I am a little bit concerned, even if it's a third string, that we didn't finish off a Brentford side. And that it looked good, and you say, yeah, it's entertaining. But I think that comes down to, as well, what we've talked about right at the start of the show about, can we then be practical and manage a game out? Or can we dominate a game? So the third string coming through, actually, are they in a position? Yeah, there's individual brilliant talent coming through. There's no doubt about that. But can they collectively carry that forward? And I think that's the bit I want to see, where we're doing that all the way through. And, did they score a wonder goal, that first one? Yeah. Did we score a wonder goal? Yeah, we did. It was entertaining. It was great. My nephew went, like 6-7 years old, loved it. And we've not got the majority of the teams there, have we? Right? And the fitness isn't quite there, but good spectacle. I want to see us now manage games and dominate games, because if we go back to, that's the only way I think that we're going to get close to this league.
I think you make a really good point there, because even if we don't win the league, you want us to maintain a stronger challenge than we did last year, didn't we? I mean,
it's not about beating the big teams. It's not. It's about and we've always been good at this historically. How do we beat the teams that we were expecting to beat? That gives you license then for that top 6 league, if you like, to go and perform really well in it. Because we know on our day we can go and beat anyone. But what we've been a bit Liverpool-esque of the past, if you like, or in the 90s and noughties, where they've been vulnerable to teams that they're expected to beat. And I don't want to see that creeping back in, because last year at Old Trafford, I know the whole COVID and crowd and stuff, we weren't good enough, particularly early on in the season. We weren't good enough at that. And we cannot start the season behind an 8 ball.
Well, you make a really good point there, because if you think in the last 4 or 5 seasons, most teams have won the league by getting into the mid-90s. That's kind of like, the actual sort of like standard bearer to win the league is about 95 points, 90 points plus. I mean, 10, 15 years ago, it used to be 88. When United won the treble, they won the league on 78 points, believe it or not. So what you're saying is right. You have to have a really good start, don't you?
I think even if we go back to 2005 and 2006, when Mourinho first came to Chelsea, they had a phenomenal start. And I don't think Ferguson was expecting it. And I think he even said, traditionally United were always one of those teams, like you say, there or thereabouts, get to Christmas, they put a run together. I think, even in the treble winning season, I think we lost 3-2 to Middlesbrough at home.
Yes, we did.
And from then, we didn't lose a game for the rest of the season. But I think teams prepare differently now. And even last season, we had a shocking start. We had that one sort of pre-season game against Villa, and then we were straight into it. And we do need a strong start. And I'm slightly concerned because of the number of players that we haven't yet got back. Because, I was saying this, from all the pre-season friendlies at the moment, I can pretty much say with 90% certainty, Nemanja Matic is the midfielder we're going to start with. And then it's going to be about who sits next to him. And it'll probably end up being Donny van der Beek. And it's whether they can very quickly, and I think Ollie will probably be quite defensive, to be honest with you, because I think he's going to go into it thinking, until I get everybody back, I need to make sure I'm not losing games. And hopefully I've got enough going forward to win the majority of them. If we think about players, I mean, some of the internationals have come back on Monday. They still need what they normally say 3 weeks of pre-season before you sort of get in there or thereabouts. It's going to be a difficult time up until the first international break. And I hope that we can get a good start, because I absolutely agree with Lee. It's going to be imperative. We can't afford, and I don't think we're going to have a season like we did last season where we didn't lose a game away from home. We can't keep conceding and coming back, as much as it's great to watch. So hopefully we can get a decent start, because absolutely, I agree. It's something that we need.
Nigel.
So we played 4-2-3-1 last night, and it looks, I mean, if you look at the shape, it looks a lot like the 4-3-3 that Ollie's inside man has been talking about. You know, if Mata was to drop back and Ilanga was to drop back, you got 4-3-3. So I guess I'm less concerned about the results. I'm more concerned about the intent. And I think fair play to Ollie. The intent's there to play a different style of football. So that's all I was interested in. I remember a few weeks ago we talked about it. And all I want to see is that we've changed the shape. We've gone as the Matt Fred thing. And, you know, looking after the back four, and we're actually going to start to play more expansive football. I mean, there were times when I didn't like the fact that sometimes we just looked like we're getting schooled by Brentford. Sometimes their ball retention was brilliant, which I just don't like to see. I just don't like to see it. Because I think Ollie should be cute enough to see when that's happening and be able to do something about it. But, you know, that still seems to be happening. But generally, I was like, okay, I take on board everything you've all said, and I totally agree with it all, especially about the players coming back and, you know, whether they're going to be ready in time for the start of the season. Because technically, our first sort of 10 games, I think bar the Leeds game, are all winnable. So we could almost get to, you know, playing the top 6. Yeah,
October, end of October, November.
That's right.
Where it gets tricky, doesn't it?
It gets
end
tricky.
Of October,
so
November.
There's a real opportunity for us to get a gallop on. But it really requires a lot of things to work in our favour. And I don't see those things working in our favour. So it really does fall on Ollie to be a bit cute. So he's going to have to earn his money the first few weeks of the season. But generally, I like what I see. I don't like the results. I'm not worried about that. I like the fact that he really is beginning to adopt this 4-3-3 style of football. So,
I mean, it was funny because, I mean, like, I was at the game yesterday, and I'm sure you guys watched it or have seen the goals. There were some tremendous goals, weren't there? I think 4 of them. I mean, you know, I mean, like, there was 3. I mean, like, worldies, weren't they? Basically, you know. I mean, I'm going back to like Dalot, and I'm just thinking, what were you doing? You know, but I mean, Pereira's goal was good. Alenga's was good. Their first equaliser was a beauty, wasn't it? And he had like 2 goals basically last night that hit the underside of the crossbar and went in. You know, they always look really good. What are your feelings, guys? I'm going to bring up a player, Hannibal Menge. Do you see him going on loan, guys, or do you see him staying in the first team? I'm going to go with you, Lee.
I think loan.
Loan, okay.
Yeah, I do. I just because it's about the overall balance, isn't it? It's not about necessarily the individual talent. I think the individual talent you can't question, but there's a lot of talented footballers in the Premier League and around Premier League squads. It's the makeup and how do you keep all of them hungry? How do you expose them? How do you put them under pressure? But back to what Nigel said there is, you've got Ollie's going to have to earn his crust in terms of who does he ship out in terms of loans and deals and get the right game time and level for them versus who do you keep in that are going to impact the first team or the first team squad. And I think that is the essence actually of how well we do this season. As well as any kind of final recruitment, because it's a fine balance and the tuning of the overall squad, because we need to be able to trust, look at Fernandes. We're totally relying on Fernandes to be the creativity, and he is, and he's great, but what do you do once that evaporates a little bit and everyone gets on his back that he's not performing? Hang on a second, he's carried out some amazing stats and play for the doing things that we've never experienced for a long period of time, like back to the Scholes Beckham days, and that's where I think rotation is going to be key, particularly early on actually. And if we don't get that bit right, it's not just yes, we're proud that we bring lads through, that's second nature, we all know that, but it's got to be at the right level, and it can't just be doing it for doing its sake, because that's the mistake we potentially could make.
Correct. I think you've got some really good points there, Lee, and I agree, because I think if there was a failing at times with Ole last year, you would say it was rotation, and players just, when they did come in, they just looked rusty, especially in the Roma game in the second leg. Players just looked really rusty and, just didn't seem, on point.
Lee's made me nervous again. I'm nervous again. Because I know Ollie's not going to do it. He's not going to do it.
He's ripping up the contract, isn't he?
I am. I'm like,
So this is what a 2-2 home draw in a friendly against Brentford can do to you.
Sorry to jump in there. Sorry.
Omla.
Yeah. I think, sorry, I had a few technical issues, so I jumped out a little bit there. But if we're talking about the 2-2 against Brentford, I mean, Dalot was just really unlucky. It was his first 20 minutes of football, and he couldn't have had two worse first touches if he tried. I think the first one came off his knee. The second one, he tried to play down the line and kicked it out. Part of me was like, when you get on a pitch and you think, right, first touch, control it, give it to someone, that's out the way. First touch, off my knee. Oh, they've nearly scored. Second touch, play it nice and simple. I'll just knock it to my mate down the line. Oh, right, I've kicked it out. And then for the goal, it was. I don't think it was a game that we were. I thought we kind of had it under control. He was out of it, wasn't he? He looked like he was blowing after about 10 minutes. And I feel for him, because you know something, if you've not played any football for however long, you've been living in Milan, and you've come back to Manchester, and it's July, and it's absolutely lashing it down for some reason, and you kind of think to yourself, what we're doing? I'm playing on the left. I'm not in Milan. I'd be gutted as well. I'd kick it out of play, because then somebody's going to say, "Yeah, you need to go back to Milan."
I think he's praying Roma are coming in for him, because Jose had him as the best up and coming.
I think he sealed his loan move back to Milan last night. Anyway,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, either that, or to be honest with you, I think he struggled getting a loan move to Brentford at the minute off that performance. To be fair, the guy's absolutely, he's nailed that finish, hasn't he?
Yeah, it was a good finish. It was.
It was. But I mean, I don't know if you guys have covered this in my little bits where I've been trying to get reconnected again. I've been a little bit disappointed with Tuanzebe, because I kind of think this was his opportunity to really stamp his authority on that centre-half position. And I don't think he's quite done it. Now, maybe he's kind of thinking, hang on a second, I'm a young player myself. I'm trying to get myself going, and I've got an even younger lad, Ted and Menge, next to me, and I'm trying to work him through a game. It's interesting that from the QPR game, Ollies swapped them around. Ted and Menge was playing on the left of that defensive two, and he's ended up putting Tuanzebe there. But Tuanzebe was a little bit sloppy with a couple of passes. I kind of thought you could have closed people down a little bit more. And I don't know whether he's thinking, oh, Varane's just coming. What chance have I got? But yeah, it was an odd performance because when we started the way we did, I thought Elanga's goal was superb.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think the thing that I like about Elanga is that, you know, he's a quick lad with bags of pace, and it wasn't that got him that goal. It was actually half a yard's worth of movement backwards that gave him that space. And I think that's quite intelligent for a player his age. And so I'm genuinely excited to see how he gets on.
See, he's taking the credit away from Wan-Bissaka, Nigel. I'd get on him for that.
Listen to me. Don't get me started. So I'm like, what is it? And some of our players with this fella today.
Don't get me wrong. It was a bang-on cross. And I hope Wan-Bissaka can put tens of those more in. I do. I genuinely do. And I like to see every single United player succeed. Every time they pull on the shirt, I feel like I think, yes, do it every single game. And that's what we want for them at the end of the day. I thought we looked a little bit better physically. Whether that's going to be physical enough for Bielsa's murder ball team, I don't know. I think we looked, Mata's not got the legs for it anymore. Quality player. But even the goal that we conceded, the first goal that we conceded, Matic had 50p headed it. And then Mata was the one, he's not strong enough to hold a player out the way. So you kind of think to yourself, well, just jump and make it awkward. And he did neither. And that's two of our senior players. So I hope Eric Ramsey can work his magic a bit quicker, because teams will play for set pieces. They know that we're vulnerable. And we conceded from a set piece their first goal, and a mistake second one. We can see little bits of improvement. We can. So let's see what happens now.
So yeah, I really wouldn't worry. I think this is, like we said earlier, it's third string team, and I think it's really more about shaping in game management for me. And I think to that end, I'm all right. I'm all right.
Just before we finish, United have installed rail seats in the J stand at Old Trafford, which will mean for certain games they'll have a license to be able to stand. Has this been a long time coming? And do we feel that, with the fans forum, this is a step in the right direction for reintroducing a great atmosphere at Old Trafford for every game? I'll start with you, Nigel.
Mate, I think only time will tell. I'm a little bit nervous because I know, of course, everybody stands up anyway. So I know it's a moot point because every game, everyone that goes knows everybody stood up. But there's something about that whole area and it just being like a permanent stand. And what happens when something crazy happens? And you remember the swell of the fans that used to roll forward and backwards? And so, mate, of course, anything like that. I mean, obviously, it's come from the fans and the clubs listen. So to that end, I'm obviously that's a step in the right direction. But only time will tell, man. I think I'm on the fence with this one. Because I like to sit down. I'm a drummer, so I like to sit down, man. I can't stand when fans get up in front of me. It's like, sit down.
It's not because like me, Nigel, you're only 5'5", is it? Do you know what I mean?
That might have something to do with
it too. Lee.
Oh, well, I'm a Stretford ender from the age of 4 me. So the swirls on what you're talking about and being up against the fence, not that I knew how unsafe it was then. That was my upbringing, right? So, You know what? It is a progressive thing. It goes back to, is it a little bit vanity at the minute? Because it's talking about if the regulations change, is how I heard it. So I think it's unusual that we've taken the step now. So I think it's an element of what you're talking about, Nigel, in terms of the engagement, and that's been well documented. I think it's a bit of a PR thing. if I'm completely honest. But that said, is it a step in the right direction? If it's proven to be safe, and it is in all intents and purposes Bundesliga, innovation has to be part of football. We talk about VAR, whether we like it or not. I think it's a step in the right direction in terms of us learning lessons from the past, but keeping the beauty of this game, and actually a focus for once, ironically, on supporters. And I think if COVID and the pandemic across the world has taught us anything, it has been the importance of supporters. And actually, I know a number of those lads in the J stand anyway, and you're right, nice, they do stand up anyway. But it's great that that's recognised. It's great that actually they can be a source of energy for the club. I actually want to hear the atmosphere all round Old Trafford be more like that, more in more areas. I don't, it can't just be the J stand to get it all going. It has to, and and of course it's not, but it may be that over time, if it's proven right and successful, that there's maybe other snippets and areas where that can take place as well. And then, hopefully not just in Old Trafford. You want to see, you want that atmosphere as well in away games. Our away support is immaculate in terms of the volume and the camaraderie that they have. Win, lose or draw, and we did really well last season away. Clearly no supporters, but that can only be a good thing. And I think for once in a while, we're being right at the forefront of innovation. And that's only a good thing for us as a club. And it's us getting back to the roots of being a world-class football club. And let's make no mistake about this. We are a world-class football club that needs to ignite itself. And all the things, all the little pieces adding together is making me really energized. Nigel, you may not think I am, but I am. But with a realistic, practical head of this is a jigsaw that we're building, right? And we're getting back to that beautiful theatre of dreams with that trophy lifted high. We're on the journey.
I was torn when I looked at this, and I thought, am I being too cynical to suggest that the club can't be bothered actually doing it up properly and repainting it, and they'll just rip a load of seats out and leave it as it is? But no, I mean, I used to sit in the East Stand. That's where my season ticket was. And when they changed it a couple of years ago and said that section of the stadium was going to be the singing section, it was absolutely infectious down that side of the stadium. And obviously the away fans are there, so you want vociferous people there. And I do agree. I think it's a step in the right direction. It's, it was every now and again I used to swap season tickets with a mate because his was in the J stand, and it was absolutely ace. I can guarantee you that if I was ever to get a ticket in there again, I'd be the one stood behind the guy who was 6'8". So I'm only 5'9", and 100% I'll be stood behind the tallest guy on the planet. But yeah, in terms of atmosphere, and I agree, we need more areas like that. We need the whole stadium needs to be singing. But do I think it's a good idea? Yeah, definitely. I think it can only be more infectious to parts of the East Stand and even in the North Stand as well. So I think it's usually the Irish fans who are sat down on that end alongside him, if I remember rightly, or it certainly was about 15, 20 years ago anyway. But yeah, looking forward to seeing how that's going to change the atmosphere. It's a good way to get back, now that we're inviting fans back, to sort of give them that onus and go, yes, we've got a standing section as well if it goes ahead. So hopefully, yeah, it'll work in our favour, stop us losing silly games at home.
Yeah.
I think it's been a long time coming. I mean, I respect, obviously, there are supporters of clubs like Liverpool that don't want, obviously, rail seats in, and they're obviously they have their reasons for that, and I respect it. But I think, like, with the initiative which is shown by the Bundesliga and the way that they have a great relationship with their fans and the atmosphere that they bring to the game, I think it is like what Lee said. We have to be innovative, and we have to have the inclusion of fans and what they believe and what they feel, and them having their opinions. And I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be absolutely brilliant, and I can't wait until the first game of the season against Leeds, where it is going to be rocking. You know, they played each other last year for the first time in 18 years, but there wasn't fans there. And some of the greatest games, because I've been to Ellen Road as well, and I've been to Old Trafford, and some of the atmospheres, they are, you know, they're pretty special, actually. They are pretty special. Anyway, guys, I'd like to say thank you for obviously contributing again. Thank you, Lee, for making your debut on today's show. And I would be more than happy, me and Nigel would be, if you would like to come back and join us.
Oh, repeat signing. I'm doing better than Dallo this season then, aren't I? Great.
Good, man.
Lee, I'd be careful
definitely.
because Lee, I'd be careful because I reckon probably thinking every time he comes on, we're having another one of those framed shirts.
Thank you very much. Your contribution as ever was fantastic.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
And I'm sure you'll be doing a Varane video for us in the next couple of days or next week.
I will. Yes, I'm going to put a little Eric Ramsey video together as well.
Okay, so everybody out there, please look out for these 3 to 5 minutes videos. They are actually very good and really enjoyable. The stats and all the work that Umla puts into them, they're more than worth a watch. And me and Nigel really appreciate the work that you do on them.
Absolutely,
don't we?
brilliant. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And to put it into perspective, yeah, Nigel doesn't nick any of your stats before he comes onto the shows. But Nigel, it's this time of the week where we say, love football, love life.
And keep that red flag flying. Standing room only, man. Standing room only.
Thanks and goodbye.
The Red Shirt Podcast, by Reds, for Reds. Don't forget to like, follow and subscribe to the Red Shirt Podcast.